talk about the inability of the ordinary citizen to understand economics and pretend as if we do. So we do sometimes elect people who may be good at heart but don't know how to run the machine. And to answer these questions, I have Rubina Ahmed-Haq, Newstalk 1010 business correspondent on the line. Rubina, tell us what is happening. Why don't I understand how this world works, and why can't I admit that I don't know anything about bubbles or ceilings or debentures and all the other stuff that people talk, yet I have to nod in agreement as if I'm a smart person, and as I see most Torontonians do, and I really get a feeling they don't.
Well, Tarek, thank you so much for having me, first of all, and welcome back. It's great to hear your voice and great to be on with you.
Oh, thank you.
But Tarek, I think that really, if you're talking about why people don't understand economics and business, I think that starts with at home. We don't talk about business. We don't talk about economics. I have been a big advocate of saying that we need to talk about money with our kids, because business and economics seems to be two things that just people feel they're too complicated. We don't want to open the business section. I often see people, they throw the business section away on the subway or on the GO train. They don't even want to read about it because it's so complicated. But really, what's happening right now, and we have friends that represent this, is that countries have spent too much money and now are having problems paying their debt. So it's just like any other individual who 5-6 years ago felt very flush with cash, was spending on their credit cards, spending on their line of credit, but now they've come up to a point where they cannot fund their lifestyle anymore. And that's what's happened in so many countries in Europe. That's what's happened in the United States. And in some ways, that's what's happening in Canada, in pockets of it. And it's a very scary reality. We need to start paying our debts down.
But Rubina, here's the point. I was studying the Greek crisis, the economic crisis, and I came across one statistic that said that there were 6,000 swimming pools that could be located by Google Earth in Athens, yet only 24 were registered with the city in paying the property taxes. So if we have the ultra super rich, the top 1%, unwilling to pay what is their requirement to pay in a fair tax society, then how does the ordinary bricklayer or the roofer or someone like me who has not studied economics understand the problem? We could be fooled very easily.
I think that you have hit it on the head. I think taxes is the number one thing that has become the problem, is that too many people with too much money are not paying enough tax. I understand that people don't like to pay taxes. People don't like to feel like the government is taking the money. Another issue is the fact that when they do pay taxes, is the government spending it responsibly? But in the United States and Greece is a terrible example. There was something like only half the citizens were actually paying their taxes every year.
And they were retiring at 52 years of age, or 57?
Well, there was revolts when they said they were going to raise the age to something like 57 or 58 because it was lower before. And friends of mine who are Greek, and they're Greek citizens, and they go there in the summer, they said the people who are suffering are the ones that are under the age of 35. They're working a job as a teacher, and they're making 600 euros a month or 700 euros a month, while some guy's retired at 55 because he feels that he deserves it, and he's collecting a pension from the government. So it's the young people that are really, really suffering because of the mistakes of the generation that came before, and because of those mistakes that were created by the government that allowed them to get away with not paying taxes. And I think that it's very important. Canada has a very good taxation system. Yes, we pay more taxes in the U.S., but that is what has kept us out of trouble in the last 3 or 4 years. Everyone hates paying taxes, but I don't know anybody that does not file on time.
But I don't know. I don't think the upper 1% of America doesn't mind paying taxes. We had, the name slips my mind, the third richest man in the world saying, I would like to pay more taxes. I think the Microsoft, Bill Gates, wants to pay taxes. Every person who is a multi-billionaire wants to pay tax. I get a feeling that it's the people who are on social assistance, working class people who are really the working poor. They work pretty hard to make sure that the top class doesn't pay the tax, because they at one stage in their life, when they are 780 years old, will retire and become rich. So we've caught up in a very crazy world where the ultra rich would like to pay and the ultra poor would like to get a tax break.
Well, I think that's very broad, but I think it's also corporations that are not paying their fair amount of corporate tax, which would also help out governments pay their debts and get infrastructure made and do whatever else they need to do for the public good. There are a lot of corporations that have very smart accountants and very smart lawyers, and every year they're able to show that they're not making the kind of money that they are, or they're showing that they're spending money on something that they can write off part of their profits for that year. So there's also that, where huge corporations that make billions of dollars a year, I mean, they might be run by many, many, many different people. That corporation is not paying enough tax. So maybe Warren Buffett doesn't mind paying $100 million more in tax, and maybe that's just PR, because he does give a lot of money to charity, so he's a very charitable person. But it's also the corporations that need to step up, and these big companies that go into parts of the United States and they set up and they employ people there, they need to also pay taxes, and the fact that they went in and they're making money off people, they also need to pay taxes on their own corporate profits.
Can these corporations that are set up maybe in the Channel Islands or in Bermuda or Bahamas, can they be audited by, say, the Canadian or the IRS?
I'm sure that if there was a law that was enacted, they could be. I'm not so comfortable talking about sort of offshore accounts and all the billions of dollars I know that are held in those accounts, and a lot of people put their money offshore so they can avoid taxes. I think the problem really starts at home. The problem really starts with the government. They need to set up a system where they understand better that tax is being collected fairly and properly and on time so that they can pay their bills, that there is a message being sent to the citizens of whether it's Canada or Greece, the United States or India, it doesn't matter, that we are in this together, that we all need to also be better savers. We all need to also understand how important it is to put money away for a rainy day, to not spend beyond our means. I don't know if you've heard this saying, but we used to have this when we were young, where you're the $40,000 millionaire. So you're only making a certain amount of money, but you're living as if you've got millions of dollars in the bank account. And that's the kind of mentality that has to stop. After 2008, I think people are getting smarter about it, but really we need to realistically look at our finances and act more responsibly when it comes to spending money. Is
it true that you as a young person started investing in real estate?
I did. I started, Tarek, I made a lot of mistakes as well when I was young. I mean, I've had a great career, and I've always been able to make some sort of money along the way. And I landed an amazing job at the CBC when I was 27 years old, I think.
This is CFRB Newstalk.
I know, but I've left them now, and now I'm dedicated to you.
You uttered the ultimate three-letter word. You're going to get me fired, sister.
What I'm trying to say is that I was working for a big corporation, a big company, and I knew that my outlook was good. And instead of spending that money on going out with my friends...
A bloated company? Did you say that? No, somebody whispered that in my ear.
What did I say? A bloated company.
A bloated company, not to worry. Listen, you are doing great. You're a great example. I read your story about you and your brother investing in real estate while you were still, in your 20s? You must be crazy.
No,
who are your parents? I mean, they need to be tackled down. You should send both of them to Ford Nation so that somebody could say, you don't sell city homes to run a budget deficit. How can you sell assets to Anyway, I'm not a businessman. I'm just an immigrant. Thank you very much, Rubina, for coming on the show and enlightening us. And I'll confess, I still don't understand how the system works. But
I'm happy to talk about it anytime you'll have me.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tarek.
Well, it's 3:30. And it's time for Newstalk 1010 Time Saver Traffic.